out of, the digitization of our world in terms of tracking weather, but also tracking feedbacks from the implications of a warming world is critical for understanding long-term trends, understanding sources of resilience, as well as vulnerabilities and thresholds. So the short term can help for feedbacks and response on the climate system, but the long term is really critical for understanding where we're headed.
So what that points out to me is the gap between having the right information and the right scale of information and the right mechanisms to produce it in a way that balances inclusivity and respect for underlying rights to privacy and the kinds of things that you talk about in the ethical frame. And that enormous gap between producing information, that kind of wonderful, beneficial kinds of information, and our gap in being able to understand what to do about it and how to act upon it and how to move that forward. So I want to turn to you, Gustavo. You're in that world, and one of those mechanisms of thinking about both the relationship between data and journalism and media in general, which is in many ways one of the primary sensor distribution networks we have for what to do about the world when we read about it on the web or on the papers.
Yeah, I think when I was listening to Kate and Amy, I was thinking about one of the discussions we had very often in Bellagio was around narratives. And that was, of course, very appealing to me because I deal with this. But as we are in the middle of this experiment, as you said, we are also shaping the narrative. And for me, being there in the middle of the discussion, which is really surprising to me because I come from this background of being a data journalist, so data is great. I mean, it just helps to do my work. But then I realized that actually can be the narrative around if it's good or bad or how it works is being shaping as well. It's being shaped now. So I think the role that we're going to play on shaping this narrative, how this experiment is going to end up both on the physical world and the social world is going to be key. And one of the main concerns also that I think we had there was this tension between the local and the global. Because when we were talking now about collecting data, we were talking about like our phones or sensors acting as sensors or like sensors around the cities. That's a whole new conference maybe we can create here just to discuss sensors and the ethics behind collecting data in the cities. But we kind of looking a lot on the hyperlocal data. And again, as a journalist, you start thinking, so if we're just concerned about our hyperlocal data, what's the role